The solar storm keeps going and going and going, and now we have a volcano going off and an earthquake to talk about. Plus, the tropics are heating up, sort of, and a multi-day severe weather threat is underway. And as you can see, we have a lot of weather to get into today, folks. We're going to take a look at your work week forecast so you know how to plan for the rest of the week, and a peek around the corner so you know what's lurking over the horizon. Glad to be with you today. Thank you for joining me. Jason Pritchard here at Cold Rain Weather. And we don't just look at showers and thunderstorms. We look at all of it: earthquakes, tsunamis, solar weather, asteroids, volcanoes, and of course, your weather. And that's why you're here. And thank you for being here, folks. We're going to do this quickly today because I've got to get in the car and head to Stewart, Virginia to visit family this weekend. And so I'm going to go ahead and get into this. This is the vorticity map. Don't let that scare you. That's just energy spin in the mid-levels of the atmosphere, because what happens up there dictates what happens down here where we live. And this map shows us a lot of interesting things. First of all, low pressure, upper level low working into the southwestern coast. This little kink here is a piece of energy providing some showers and thunderstorms out here to the Four Corners region and the lower plains. This is the remnants of tropical storm Alvin that we were watching in the Pacific a couple of days ago. Now we've got this trough working into the Pacific Northwest as well. Low pressure, this big trough up here that's been plaguing the Northeast and bringing in all of this southerly flow wildfire smoke, is finally exiting stage right, and a little area of spin down here in the Gulf is going to potentially create a little tropical mischief as it works up toward the Northeast. So that's what's going on, folks, with this map. Ahead of these troughs and areas of spin is where you find lift. Cooling in the upper atmosphere helps create instability, particularly when you have moisture at the surface, and we do. And look at this. You see these little pockets of energy. They're defined by these brighter colors. So you can see these things moving along in the flow as we go on in through Thursday into Friday into the weekend. Look what happens here as we get on later in the week. Instead of all of this up and down meridional flow, you've got this kind of zonal flow that's set up. These height lines kind of run west to east. You see that? That means the wind is going west to east. And within this corridor of west to east winds, you see these little pockets of energy kind of move along. And the model will do a little bit better job of picking up on some of these as they move in from the Pacific. But those are what's going to impact our weather, particularly over the south as we get later on into the week and into the weekend. So that's what's going on in the mid-levels. Looking at the surface, how does that all play out down here at the surface? Got this big cold front. We're going to move this back a little bit so we can see what's going on today. So we've got a cold front that's kind of set up here, a little wave of low pressure, sparking showers and thunderstorms as we get into the afternoon. There's going to be an axis of instability. All of that's going to work on to the east, little activity over Florida into the southeast. Now watch what happens as we go on into tomorrow afternoon. That cold front slips east. We start to see showers and thunderstorms a little bit more ill-defined tomorrow. So maybe the severe weather threat's a little bit less, but cold front extends the Great Lakes all the way down into Texas. That low pressure that's working into the southwest is finally moving in to the western Four Corners area, bringing rain there. And the little spin in the Gulf is moving up into the Carolinas, and we'll start to see clouds, cooler temperatures, and showers there. As we get on into Thursday, we're going to have a little bit more instability to work with, a little bit more defined upper level feature coming into play on that. So we're going to starting to see that line of showers and thunderstorms develop along the cold front. Could spread some severe weather up into New England on an isolated basis, all the way down to Texas, where we see a little bit more of a defined severe weather threat. And then over time, as we get on into Friday, start to see more showers and thunderstorms breaking out along the instability axis in that zonal flow. And then this little low pressure starts to get its act together off the coast. And we're going to take a look at that from a tropical standpoint and see exactly what's going to happen there as we go on into the day, Friday into Saturday and so forth. And so that's where we are. That takes us through the end of the week. If we take a look at the instability, because that's what we need to understand about, in addition to upper level features, where's the instability? We need instability for strong thunderstorms. And so we've got that in spades this afternoon as we go on in toward the afternoon hours up into Texas and Oklahoma. We've got plenty of instability all the way up into Missouri and even into Wisconsin. So that axis will diminish as nocturnal cooling takes over. We still see instability continuing through Texas, so we may see a maintenance of some of these showers overnight. And as we get on into tomorrow afternoon, instability is you see that axis moving into the Mississippi Valley, still continuing down here in Texas as well. We've got a marginal risk tomorrow. We just don't have a lot of upper support. So possible that we could see a little bit of an upgrade tomorrow, but we're going to take a look at the SPC here in a minute. And there we go. As we get on into Thursday afternoon, look at the instability axis in front of the cold front. So we could see some thunderstorms all the way up in New England, back down through the lower Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, back into the southern plains as we get on into Thursday afternoon. Then Friday, everything starts to shift a little bit south and east. As we get into the weekend, you see that instability really cranking up here across the southern third of the nation. And over time, that will shift east a little bit. So we'll see how everything kind of shakes out day by day as we go through the week. But that's what we're looking at from a thunderstorm fuel standpoint. Looking at the risk assessment from the SPC, big area of slight risk down here just north of St. Louis into Kansas City, Oklahoma City, down toward Abilene, Wichita Falls, places like that. You're in a slight risk. Level 2, marginal risk from the Great Lakes to southwest Texas. Tornado threat's not non-existent, but it's not going to be a widespread tornado outbreak. Not a lot of spin in the atmosphere, so we're not going to have to worry about big tornadoes, but we could still see a couple. Wind reports probably more predominant today as clusters and line segments develop later on in the evening. Hail is going to be a little bit more likely as we head down toward Oklahoma and Texas, where the atmosphere is a little bit cooler. Lapse rates are a little bit better down there. So that's what we're looking at for today. We actually had a couple of severe weather reports yesterday, more than a couple. Sherman, Kansas, I think, checked in with 79 miles per hour. So even though we're not under a widespread severe weather outbreak kind of scenario, you can still see strong winds. So take weather alerts seriously. Tomorrow, marginal risk up here into the Great Lakes, back into the northern Mississippi Valley. Isolated severe thunderstorms possible. Marginal risk down here in Mexico, New Mexico, and the Texas Panhandle. Not really much of a tornado threat. Wind and hail would be the primary threats. And again, we could see maybe an upgrade to a slight risk in some of those areas. Thursday, a little bit better wave comes through, piece of energy aloft, provides some cooling and a better chance of showers and thunderstorms. Texas Panhandle, Oklahoma, northern Oklahoma, and southern Kansas, just marginal risk around that. And then along that cold front in New England, you all could see some isolated severe weather up there as we head into Thursday. Looking out ahead toward Friday and Saturday, that instability axis again shifts toward the south and sort of runs west to east. And we're going to see little pieces of energy move west to east and activate or use that shower or the instability to create showers and thunderstorms on Friday, and then again Friday here, and then again on Saturday, and maybe that shifts east as we go through the course of the next few days. So that's what's going on severe weather-wise. We're going to take a look here in just a minute at the tropics and the solar weather, but we're going to look first here at the surface map just so you can kind of get an idea of how all of the surface features. This is what you're used to probably, but we've got a cold front extending from the Great Lakes all the way back to northern Texas. It's kind of baggy back through the four corners, a little snow in the higher elevations, maybe in the Rockies, but general shower and thunderstorm activity either side of that cold front. Heavy rain threat, and we're going to look at that too and see how much rain could fall, but flood watches are up for portions of this area in this excessive rain threat, which overlaps the severe weather threat today here in the central and southern plains. And in Florida could see some showers and excessive rain threat potentially down in southern Florida too. High temperatures today, warm from the Great Lakes down through Texas, where we could see 80s and 90s in any of those areas through Florida. A little cooler, 70s up in the northeast under the influence of that trough that's moving out, and then cooler back into the plains, northern plains and northern Rockies, where we're seeing a trough kind of work in that area. A little bit warmer out in western Washington, Oregon, certainly warm in the desert southwest. So that's what the temperature looks like today. That's your today's forecast. And now the solar storm that just won't seem to end. What's going on, folks? Well, we've got our KP index. This kind of measures the geomagnetic activity. Reds or G4. Pretty rare to see reds, but we're still seeing an elevated here, level 2, level 3 geomagnetic influencing of geomagnetic storm, you can call it that, but it's just influence of the solar wind that's impacting the Earth from all of the coronal mass ejection solar flare activity that we had a few days ago. It's still impacting us. It's been pretty long, X-ray flux. We're not seeing any additional solar flaring, which is good. You can see there's not much here except a coronal hole. This is a coronagraph. It's kind of neat. I'll play this so you can see it. It shows CMEs that leave the surface of the sun and where they go. Look up here. So you got one kind of going out there, but watch this area up here in the northeast quadrant. Boom, look at that. Big CME goes off, but hey, it's not headed toward us. When you see them kind of go around the limb like that, that means they're not headed away. If they're coming at you, you see a big halo. It's called a halo CME, and it means that it's coming right at you, and it would go out in all directions. And so fortunately, we're not seeing any additional activity there. taking a look here at the magnetic interaction of some of these sunspots. So I'll just put this in here. We talked about this before. If you want sunspots to go off, you have to get complex magnetism. That's usually the best way to do that. Here, this sunspot that's kind of turning in is diminishing, and it's all positive. This one's mostly negative, separated from the positive. This one's a little closer together, but you really want to see kind of an interspersing of positive and negative charges, and we don't really see that so far, so that's good. Aurora viewing, potentially you could see some auroras as far south as southern Minnesota if the air quality is okay and you don't have a lot of smoke in the air, but I'm afraid you might have a little too much smoke to be able to see a faint aurora, but there's your view line for auroras. And oftentimes we see volcanic and earthquake tectonic activity tied to solar storms and solar activity. And so we're seeing that now. We're not seeing it in the area we've been watching in the Pacific Rim, still our same 4 volcanoes, but check this out. Mount Etna, it erupted and sent tourists that were in the area running for cover. But there it is, Mount Etna going off in the background. And watch this, this is from CNN, but you can see it here. Boom, look at that. Big eruption from Mount Etna. And as the footage kind of rolls along here, you'll see a big pyroclastic cloud coming up out of that. And I saw some tourists kind of running away. So you can find images of this, but that's what's going on at Mount Etna. We've also had an earthquake go off here in Turkey, a 5.8, and then subsequently a 5.0 in Greece. And I think some people felt this, although there was not any report. I didn't see any report of fatalities or injuries or of major damage or anything like that. So earthquakes are often tied to solar activity, sometimes not, but sometimes they are. Now, shifting gears, taking a look at the tropics, folks. Hey, this is why you subscribe to Cold Rain's Weather Channel, man. We cover it all. This is all of interest to me, and I want to make sure that you know what's going on in the world when it comes to these events and how they might affect you if they do. And certainly solar activity can affect us in a lot of different ways, and I talked about that in a video the other day. But anyway, tropical activity is maybe picking up a little bit. We've been watching for about the last 10 days, the GFS trying to bring this major hurricane into the Gulf around day 10. Well, here's day 10 on the GFS, and let's see what it's doing now. Oh, nothing at all. So the GFS has completely dropped that. And so now it, get on in here to day 15. Oh, there it is, day 15. It's only pushed it back 5 days. This is like a GFS snowstorm at day 10 or 15. This is what happens in the wintertime. It's not surprising to see it happen in the summertime with regard to tropical activity. The European doesn't show anything down here at all. That said, this little wave of, we roll this way back, we see that little wave of spin that we were looking at before. It's starting to pull that together and organize it a little bit. And so potentially we could see a little area of development out here. As a matter of fact, the National Hurricane Center has outlined a 10% chance of formation of a tropical storm over the next, or a tropical cyclone, we should say, that could be a depression over the next 7 days. And so not really much going on. It's just an area of non-tropical low right now. And so that's what's going on there. Eastern Pacific, so not anything anyway, that would move off to the northeast. It wouldn't affect us if it did develop. Eastern Pacific, we've got a 40% chance over the next 7 days of this wave developing. It's moving to the west northwest, so no real threat to anything out there. So that's what's going on in the tropics. Taking a look at the current weather and what's happening over the next several days so you can plan your work week. We've got a big view of the satellite picture here. I've expanded this out to show you a couple of fun things here. Look at this wispy cloud cover that you see kind of in this area. This, forget about these bright clouds, but look at this low level kind of milky clouds. You see that is the smoke from the Canadian wildfires continuing to pour into the United States and just kind of persist here. We've also got another area of kind of milky cloud cover here out in the Atlantic coming across, in the winds moving in from the east out of Africa. This is Saharan dust. So we've got Saharan dust coming in, potentially making its way into southern Florida, and smoke from the Canadian wildfires. So we've got a two-pronged air quality alert attack going on, folks. And of course, in the rest of the satellite, you can see that frontal zone and all the showers that are kind of around that under these clouds with the lightning display here. That's where the thunderstorms are, of course. And so that's what this nice out west here, got a little trough moving in. But other than that, milky sunshine over the eastern part of the country. Looking at our alerts map, flood watches up from Missouri all the way down through the middle of Oklahoma for the next couple of days for heavy rain with some of these thunderstorms over today and tonight. And then air quality alerts where they've just you guys haven't had a break from this up there for several days. You've been under various air quality alerts from that smoke from the wildfires up in Minnesota, Wisconsin, UP of Michigan. Stay inside as much as possible. Change those air filters out if you're sensitive, folks. And I'm sorry that you have to go through this. That really stinks, and in more ways than one. But hopefully we'll get a pattern change that will move some of that smoke out of the area. Heavy rain threat, though, is a heavy rain is a real threat. That's probably a better way to say that if we can get our language together here. Get it together, Cold Rain. All right, so look, in this purple outlined area here, this is 1.5 inches of rainfall, right? Okay, so that's what we're looking at in this general purple outline that I've terribly drawn. In the red, that's where we start to get into the 3 and 4 inch range. So look at this. Oklahoma, you all could see as much as 6-7 inches of rain. This is the 7-day forecast, and we're going to see repeated rounds of heavy showers, and that's what's going to persist in this area. So we'll probably see additional flood watches as time goes on, and heavy rain across the southeast. No drought in sight in these areas. Looking at temperatures as we go out over the next few days, we've already seen Tuesday, Wednesday, 80s up and down the East Coast, and hundreds down here along the border, but very chilly as we get back into the Rocky Mountains in these areas, and cooler 70s and 80s as you get on out into the plains and Midwest. And we start to see a little bit more of a zonal reflection of the temperatures as we go through time. 80s up into Maine, down into Texas. A little bit cooler in the southeast as we get into Thursday under the influence of that little wave of low pressure down here. And then 70s, very nice for much of the rest of the country where it's not raining. A little bit warmer out in the west, and particularly along the southern areas where you can see 90s and close to 100. And then we start to see a little bit of a return flow out west, bringing temperatures 90s up into western Washington and San Joaquin Valley, hundreds in the desert southwest, hundreds down along the border, 80s and 90s across the south, getting pinched down there as we get on into Friday. And that is your work week forecast, folks. Looking down the road at the pattern, what do we see here? Saturday morning, ridge out west, general kind of zonal flow, troughing, or if you want to call it that, in the east. And that's where we're going to see those corridor of showers and thunderstorms sort of move through. And as we go on out in time, you can see another trough begin to develop up here in south central Canada that will spread east and kind of form an upper level low through the Great Lakes, and really cool temperatures off up there, spreading a little bit cooler weather into the south and east and warming us up out west. And look at this as we go on through time, that will mute out, and we start to see the whole entire country get under the influence of ridging way out in time as we approach mid-June. Little troughing signal along the west coast, so it could be a little cooler and more active out there. But a big ridge, GFS has the same thing, or the GFS ensembles has the same. It's just centered a little bit farther to the east. Looking at temperatures, how that's going to play out as we get on into Saturday, Sunday. Nation's midsection a little cooler than normal, much warmer than normal, maybe 20 degrees above normal out west. A little warmer in the southeast, but that trough comes into the center part of the country, works its way on in toward the Great Lakes, pinches off the warm in the east, and just diminishes a bit in intensity as we go on out through mid next week. But look at these big areas of warmth out west. Probably going to see not much rain, very high temperatures out there. And then everybody sort of gets in on the act of warming up as we get on in toward mid-June. Precipitation-wise, as we go on out in time, these are basically 7-day increments of above and below normal precipitation. And as that zonal flow takes over and we see these pockets of energy moving through from Texas all the way into the northeast, into the east coast, we're going to see a little bit more in the way of above normal precipitation that eventually will give way to below normal in the midsection of the country, and above toward the Great Lakes, the strongest signal for above here along the southern coast as well, the Gulf Coast and all of that. So that's how we look as we go on out in time, folks. That is our show today. I won't have a long show tomorrow or Thursday. I'll be traveling, but I will do a couple of shorts, and I'll have another show like this on Friday. I've got a lot of appointments, doctor appointments with son and things like that, but we'll have our son home this weekend. He'll do a couple of shorts with me. I do these every day, folks, and certainly appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you so much for all of the new subscribers who have signed on lately. It's been a lot of fun doing these shows, and I'm glad that hopefully you're enjoying it. If you have any questions, let me know. I pray over you all generically every day. Please let me know if there's anything specific I can pray for, and I'll do that. Please pray for me, for safe travel and just for our family in general. We need it. We all need it. But I can't thank you enough for being here. And that's it for today, folks. Take care. If anything comes up, I'll be tweeting about it or whatever you call it, posting about it on X at Real Cold Rain. And I'll do a short too if we need to. But take care, folks, and have a wonderful week.